Namaste. Hi everybody, how are you doing? Welcome to Ignite Your Intuition Part 3. So today I want to talk a little bit more about intuition, and we're also going to do an exercise to get into our intuition. First thing I want to say is the reason that I feel intuition is important right now is because we are at a pivotal point in our history. We're at a choice point. We've had an extreme experience, all of us, of being in the pandemic. Our experience from before the pandemic to now, sort of starting to come out of it, will be very different. So life before is very different, certainly to how we have been living. And we've got a choice now as to how we decide to move forward with our lives. It's as though in the last couple of months, there's been a load of light switches turned on in all the different parts of our lives. Our work will have been sort of highlighted. So whether that's because you've had to work at home, whether it's because you've had to go out on the front line, whether it's because you've had to think of different ways of working, or whether it's because you've not been working, your work will have been in focus. Your relationships will have been in focus because we've all been staying in. So your close relationships will have been in focus with your kids, with your partners, with your family, and your friendships as well. Same thing, because they're in a different situation. So it shows up what was happening before and then what was happening then. And our homes, our houses where we live, our environment will have all been like big lights shone on them. You know, we'll be looking at our houses, we've been in our houses, needs decorating, the garden needs doing, whatever it is. Every area of our life, we will have had some thoughts about. Now, moving forward, as I say, we're at a choice point in every way in the life. So in our own personal lives, in our community lives, and in our broader humankind life, there is an opportunity for huge change, massive change, if we want it. And of course, we have to start from ourselves. That's how change begins. But if enough of us want change, and if enough of us start to activate some change will happen. Now, the reason intuition is important is because we can start to do things differently from the ways we've done them before. So rather than working from our mental mind, so if we wanted a new job, if we decided we wanted a new job in this time we've had, actually I'm fed up with that job, I want this job, the normal way of doing that is, what job would I like? What steps can I take? It's all logical, rational, maybe strategic, linear, and it's all bound by our time-space continuum here. How about if we start looking to our intuition to provide us with our inspiration and to follow that intuition to wherever it's going to lead us. So it may lead us somewhere completely different to where we'd ever dreamed of. It may take us all over the place. It may happen straight away. It might happen in 3 or 4 years' time. The point is that we can decide now, and we can practice now, how to really contact our intuition, how to learn to really listen to that intuition, and how to start to act on that intuition. And then, why do you want to do this? I should say, why do you want to do this, as opposed to doing what we know works fine, is our strategic, normal, mental way of doing things. We know that's okay. But the point is that when you work with your intuition, and we've talked about this already, so our intuition is connected to the broader, wider, not limited by space and time, the quantum field, source, God, the place where there are a myriad of possibilities, a myriad of timelines. So it's just so much more expansive, and it's magical. And there are no limitations. So I put it to you, why don't we really take this opportunity now to start doing things differently, to start trusting, and that is really important with intuition, to start trusting that we are divine, that we can manifest things, we can make things happen. Okay, so I wanted to talk a little bit about timelines, or the idea of timings within intuition. So oftentimes when you have an intuition, or when you're asking for guidance, so that comes in the same basket, if you like. So say you're asking for guidance, say you think, okay, I would like to meet a new partner, and you sort of go into a meditation or you go into a visualization state and you connect with your higher self, and you kind of say, okay, well, I would like to meet a new partner, please give me some signs, and I would like to receive my first sign by the end of next week. Okay, it's unlikely that will happen. It might do, but it's unlikely. Intuition, guidance, doesn't really work like that. And the reason it doesn't, again, is it's because it's not in our third dimensional time-space continuum. It's beyond that. There is no time, there is no space. It's all existing at the same time. So to put a timing on it, it's unlikely you're going to receive it in that time. And this is where that trust comes in. It's a trust that you will be delivered the information or the guidance at the perfect time. Now, if you look to the times in your life that you had guidance, okay, say, you know, something had happened or something was happening, and at the time you wanted that guidance desperately and you wanted it at a certain time, and you look back now and you think, oh no, I never got it then. In fact, it only happened, that guidance only happened, or that person I met only showed up when that other thing had happened. And actually, when you look back with hindsight, and remember hindsight is 2020, when you look back, you think, yeah, now that is good that it happened at that point, because if it happened at the original point that I wanted it to happen, then this wouldn't have happened, this wouldn't have happened, this wouldn't have happened. So you realise that actually things come absolutely at the right moment, absolutely at the right moment. So you can't put, you can't try and restrict or determine times by your will. You can't do that. You have to trust. You have to let the divine plan deliver it when the time is right. Now, the other thing is that sometimes you get a, sometimes you get an overwhelming fear response. And we did touch on this before. So if you remember in the last video, I talked about when you first have your intuition about something, it's like, it's very pure and it's like the perfect scenario. It's like the carrot being dangled. And then what often happens is you get a feeling attached to it. Often the first feeling is a good feeling because that's what inspires you. That's the carrot. And then after that, when you start to sit with it and entertain it, the ego, if you remember, the ego comes in and it starts getting a bit worried. It doesn't want change. This isn't its comfort zone. It's not enjoying it. So it starts to throw some negativity at it, some limitations at it. Now, sometimes those limitations are, you're manageable and you sort of just accept them and think, well, yeah, I can still do it. I can action this. Other times, those limitations and those fears seem enormous. They seem massive. And your body kind of constricts and reacts to it. And you feel kind of paralyzed by it. In those cases, sometimes it's better just to acknowledge that, okay, my body isn't kind of ready for this yet. My body isn't ready for this intuition. Now, it's not that the intuition isn't right, but it might be that this is a real glimpse into the future, sometime ahead. So we all know what it's like. You have an idea about something, it seems amazing, then you get scared off it. But then as time goes on, and particularly if you let the idea go, the intuition go, then often, you know, even a year, 2 years down the line, your body has got used to it a bit. Things, your environment is a bit more conducive to it. The people around you are a bit more conducive. You've moved towards it without even knowing. And then what happens is the time is just right, and you make a decision, and that decision was the intuition that was giving you enormous fear at the start. So there's a natural process and a natural time for these things to come to fruition. So in karma terms, you know, karma, the law of, you know, what goes around comes around. There is karma appears, karmas ripen when the conditions are absolutely right, the conditions are stable. And remember that often these intuitions or these pictures or whatever you want to manifest, often they involve other people. So these other people have to be, you know, their karma, their action, their intuition has to be ripe too for it to all come into play at the same time. The other thing to say is there are timelines. So you could start off on this trajectory of, okay, I want to, I don't know, get this new job. And then what could happen is at the same time, another option could happen. Maybe your existing job gets a new opportunity within it. So you started on the I want a new job timeline, and then you're suddenly on the other timeline. Now, it's not that the first timeline disappears then, but it's that you've chosen to go, perhaps stay with the job and continue on that timeline. And you might hop from one to another over the period of the next whatever amount of time. So then nothing is 100%. It can come and it can go. It can pop in and it can pop out, exactly as it does in the quantum field. Okay, so timing. What about when something doesn't happen? When it doesn't happen? Well, as I've said, often it doesn't happen, or there's a few things with it. One is that you have an intuition about a certain thing and it doesn't happen, and it doesn't happen because you're pushing too hard at it with your mind, with your mental activity. You're pushing too hard and the timing isn't right. It might not happen, as I said just now, because the people involved, it's just they're not ready for it. It might not happen because it's not meant to happen, because you've hopped off that timeline. It might not happen at that moment, but again, it might happen far in the future. Okay? Now, the other thing we talked about intuition, we talked about mostly sort of when you want something to happen. Now, how about when you get a feeling that, you know, a bad feeling about something? So a gut instinct or an intuition of a sort of doomy feeling. So you might get this, you know, often in dreams we get this, don't we? Like, oh, crikey, I better check on my friend because I had a dream that something went wrong. Or certain relationships are very in tune. So twins often have a very close psychic relationship, as do partners, brothers. You know, often you're very close, your energy fields are very close. So what about that? I would say that that's a good thing. It's a good thing that you're able to tune in to something that may be a bit negative in nature, but it's a warning. It's a warning sign. So, you know, often people in business, they say, you know, I have a gut feeling. I'm good at business because I have a gut feeling. I know if someone is trustworthy. I know if that's a good thing to put my money into. I've just got a gut feeling about it. Um, so, yeah, and I would say that that would be a really helpful thing. Nothing to worry about, nothing to feel bad about, actually very, very useful, very helpful if you can trust that intuition. Now, the problem could be, that, again, the same thing, is that your ego jumps on and it starts to either override it because your thoughts are telling you, oh no, they would be great to go into business with because they've got the funds and that they've got a lot of contacts, but your gut's still saying no, it's not the right thing at all. So your mind can sort of try and convince you it's the right thing, can't it? Equally, it could make that gut feeling much more than it was. So that can be really worrying. So say you've got an intuition, something's not right, my son is out all night and I feel something's happened to him. And then, of course, your ego can jump in and say, oh my God, the most terrible, he's been in an accident, he's in hospital, etc., etc. So there's all of that sort of stuff as well. Just looking at my list. Yes. What certain environmental factors or internal environmental factors help with intuition or help create a good grounding for intuition? Or when do spontaneous intuitions like to come? Of course, it's going to be different for everyone. I know for me, when I'm running or when I'm cycling, so when I'm doing something in motion that's repetitive, often those are where my ideas come, my intuitions come, my feelings come, and my inspirations come. I often feel really inspired when I'm in motion or walking. So it's in motion. That's good for me. Might not be the same for you. When you're being really creative, when you're really expressing yourself creatively, however that works for you. So that might be art or singing or whatever. I mean, creativity doesn't have to be artistic, does it? So when you're in the flow, I think maybe you could express it like that. When you're really in the flow of something, then the intuition tends to be strong. When you're in meditation and silence, often you'll get intuitions because of the space. The space is available there in your mind for those intuitions to really come in. Sometimes you get intuitions or space. It's space for intuitions when you've had a bit of a breakthrough with something. So say you had a habitual response to something. Say you're a bit of a people pleaser, and you don't sort of step outside the box, you don't like to upset anybody, and then you start to think, actually, you know what, I'm fed up with this, I'm not really being very authentic to myself, and you start to speak out a little bit, and maybe you start to dip your toe into what's it like to say things that aren't popular. And then you might find that, oh wow, actually that's quite freeing because you are embodying yourself a bit more fully. And then again, these intuitions may be more accessible to you. You might start to notice them more. Sometimes trauma can do it because it breaks apart, it sort of shocks apart your physical being. And again, there's a sort of space there that enables intuition to heighten. In the end, when we start to read these intuitions, it's about energy. It's about tapping into energy and feeling, but feeling not being emotion, as we've talked about. It's more subtle. It's before emotion. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to do a little, very short, led meditation. And throughout this meditation, I'm going to offer you certain choices. And I want you to feel those choices in your body. What you're looking for when we go through this is what feels better in your body. Okay, so if you start to feel a sort of excitement, a fizz, a lift, an expansion, an openness, a brightening, a lightening, that's could indicate a positive, a good intuition or positive feeling about something. And then if you're feeling a heaviness, a constriction, a contraction, a tension, a tightening, that could indicate a more, that this would, doesn't sit so well with you. So of course we're not asking for, in this situation, we're really just focusing on whether your body and your intuition, this access, this passageway to our higher self, we're just accessing that, and we're noticing what feels good in the body and overriding the mind. Okay, so if you notice your mind start to say, well, I will choose that one because I know that it's better for me, or I don't know, any number of mental chat attitudes, such and such said that. That's actually something I'll just come in before we carry on actually and just say as a sidebar, intuitions don't tend to be, they don't tend to be other people's voices. Someone else says this. They don't tend to be your judgmental mind, so your own judgmental mind or someone else's opinions. They don't tend to, although they can manifest in a sense of fear a little bit, but they don't tend to, the fear, you'll know the fear, as I've said before, you'll know the fear sometimes is a bit of a fizzy fear and an excitement fear. But it's definitely not something that makes you feel sick and ill inside and anxious. That's not an intuition. Okay? So those are what they're not. Okay. So on to our short meditation. Sitting nice and tall and closing your eyes. Take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. Sigh out. Inhale through the nose and exhale through the mouth. Let yourself settle for a moment. So I'm going to just do a very short visualization with you. You're at home. You've got up. You go to your wardrobe. And you see two tops, one red top and one blue top. Which top are you going to choose today? Notice as you look at each top, what happens in your body. Which top are you going to choose? Now take your top, put it on, head on downstairs, and you're just getting yourself together because you're going to be going out, and the doorbell rings. You go to the door, you open the door, and you see your very best friend. Give him a hug. How does it make you feel? Play out that chat, that situation, and notice how your body feels. Does it feel light, lifted, fizzy, bubbly? How does it feel? What's the energy that you feel? And then you notice behind, coming down the path, there's somebody that you have a little difficult relationship coming towards you. Notice what happens in your body. Notice what happens in your body. You exchange pleasantries. You say what you need to say. But just notice, how does this body feel now? How does the frequency change? And now both people head off, and you decide you're just going to go for a little stroll you're going to take a little stroll over into the park because it's a really beautiful day. So you head over into your local park and the sun is brightly shining and the kids are playing and there's birds singing. I want you to notice, how does this make you feel? How do you feel in this environment? What happens to your body? What happens to your mind? You're really enjoying this lovely walk around the park. And then as you turn the corner, you notice just ahead of you, there's a fight going on. There's a couple of people and they're shouting at one another, and there's a couple of kids crying, and it's looking pretty ugly. How do you feel? What's happening in your body? Just notice what happens in your body. What's the feeling? The situation resolves. The people move on. You decide to head on home. And as you do, you suddenly notice that the sky has gone very dark and there's suddenly a huge clap of thunder, flash of lightning, and it starts to absolutely pour with rain. What happens now? How's your body feeling? What's your frequency like? Is there a little bit of excitement, a little bit of fizz, or a little bit of a sinking feeling? What are you feeling? Don't let your mind get in the way. Just what does this feel like? And then the rain stops. And you see it's clear to go home. So you start to make your way back home, opening the door, closing the door, and then opening your eyes and coming back into your space here. So hopefully you will have noticed the different reactions in the body, the different feelings in the body, which are not to do with your thoughts, but to do with your instinctive, intuitive feelings. So they're quite extreme situations, and that's to help you click in and notice. So it's a good idea throughout your day, if you want to practice or start to practice, just give yourself options through the day, really simple things. Tune in. Shall I have a bath or a shower? Shall I eat eggs for breakfast or fruit? Shall I go to, and make those decisions from the heart or from the gut, not from, well, I should do this because da 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 da. Tune in, see what your feeling is. Okay, so starting to learn to operate in that way. See how you get on. So thank you so much for watching today. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've got something from it. Please subscribe if you feel like subscribing, if you want to leave any comments. And I'll see you for the next one. Namaste.